Hey guys, welcome back. I'm AJ BEDDOUK, your trusted 30A real estate agent right here on 30A with the luxury division of the Emerald Group. And today I'm going to be going over the top 10 questions that I keep getting about 30A. So this is going to help you to make your most informed decisions on what to buy on 30A. Should you buy on 30A? Is it time to sell? What is happening? All of these questions are going to get answered for you in this video. So if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you get notified every time I do another video. Let's get into it. One of the first questions that I seem to get about here on 30A when people are considering purchasing a property is, what's the average price per square foot? So it's going to be a little bit different between houses and condos, and we're going to be seeing some disparities when it comes to different locations and proximities to the beach, right? So on the lowest end, we're seeing about $350 per square foot. And on the highest end, we're seeing properties going for over $2,800 per square foot. Now, obviously, if you're right on the water, that's going to go for a whole lot more than if you have to drive to the beach from somewhere else on 30A. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to condos, on the other hand, we're going to see that same pattern where proximity to the beach and just overall locations is going to play a big factor in how much the square footage is going for. But we're seeing it going from as low as $390 per square foot all the way up to about $2,500 per square foot. So it can get up there for the condos as well. Some of them are fairly sizable also. Now, different locations like Seaside or Alice Beach or Rosemary Beach, those are going to be a bit on the higher end. But once you get over to, say, Dune Allen Beach or maybe Seagrove, you're going to start seeing a little bit of decreases in prices. Now, that's not to say that if it's right on the water, it's not also going to be pretty high, but that's kind of the pattern that we see things here on 30A as far as square footage pricing. The second question I get is kind of a two-in-one question. And one is, what's the rental market like? And the other one is, what's the purchase market like? And that's because a lot of the folks that are looking on 30A to purchase a property are typically considering something to be an investment or a second home. So they want to know what the numbers are going to look like if they are renting it out whenever they're not using it. So to answer your first question is, it's not that great. Like, I'm just going to give it to you straight. So here on 30A, there was, once it was found out, that 30A was here and it's this beautiful place with miles and miles and miles of gorgeous beach, Airbnb, VRBO, I mean, they could hardly handle, I would say, all of the bookings that are coming through on 30A. It was just, people love it here. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the houses are stunning, and the culture, the feel, it's just fantastic. It's very chill and calm and just very healing, and everything's just right there. You're so close to the beach. You're breathing in that salty air. You've got this beautiful white sand. You're watching dolphins. I mean, how can you be in a bad mood with those things, So Airbnbs out here were doing exceedingly well in the past few years, but along came COVID. That stunted our growth a bit, and we still haven't fully recovered from that. Now, on top of COVID, we have seen interest rates take a jump of over double, right? And so in addition to that, there's also been some drama going on here on 30A. Now, along those miles and miles and miles and miles of beach, there are a ton of houses that sit right on the beach. And up until pretty recently, there was a customary use law, whatever provision there that everybody could use the beach still. It wasn't a big deal. Like, yes, there were houses right there, but you could sit right in front of them. It was fantastic. Nobody cared. It's the beach, But recently, all of that has changed. The beachfront property owners have found a way to own that beach, and it's on a lot of them, it's on their surveys even. And that customary use has gone away. And so you basically have to rent a house that is right on the water, or a condo that is right on the water, or has, part of their subdivision is on the water. So they own that private beach right in front of it. Otherwise, you have to use a public beach here on 30A. Now, even if you rent a place that has a beach access, it's literally just that strip that it has of beach right there, that narrow strip that allows you to walk to the water. That's what you have, legal access to nowadays. And then you have to walk either east or west to get to a public beach. Unless you're staying in one of those big houses right on the water that has their private beach and you have access to that. They have gone so far as to set up chairs blocking the way and hiring security personnel to tell people they are trespassing if they stay on the beach too long in their, owned beach area. So a lot of our tourists, they're seeing this. They've been coming here for years and they're like, what is this? Now we're all having to jam pack into these smaller areas. There already wasn't parking there. Now we have to walk all the way over there. We're all right on top of each other and we're looking at these miles of expansive beach with nobody on them. So a lot of folks that we're seeing out here are like, I'm not coming back. I'm going to take my family somewhere else. Can you imagine booking an Airbnb, you've been coming here for years and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna get an Airbnb that's maybe not quite as expensive as the one right on the water, but I have this access so I can still walk to the access and then get to the beach right on the other side of it. It's gonna be fantastic. You got your small kids and like your pull behind cart with all your beach toys and your umbrella, all those things, and then you get to the beach and then you see all these no trespassing signs on either side of the walking aisle, that sandy access to get to the beach is not welcoming at all. And so imagine doing that and then you've got your small kids in tow and then realizing that the walk to the public beach from where you are is ridiculously far and you just have to turn back around and go back to your Airbnb and then drive to the closest public beach. And by that time, there's probably going to be no parking because thinking that you had that access right there, you probably didn't leave at an early in the morning, non-peak time for the beach. So it just creates this really negative feeling. And we're seeing it all over social media that people are just not happy with what they're getting as far as the beaches when it comes to 38 right now. We haven't seen that sharp decline yet in tourism in this area specifically, but the harder the beachfront property owners push, the less tourism we're going to see in the area and the more of an issue it's going to become. So we have already seen a lowered kind of return of people here in the area. And then we're also seeing it be a little bit difficult to sell these properties now because of the higher interest rates, the higher taxes, the higher insurance. It's all having this huge impact both against rentals and property values. So we're seeing this kind of downward spike in the rentals, and that's feeding into the sales. Because again, like I said previously, a lot of the folks that consider 30A purchases, they're looking at these properties as vacation rentals that like a vacation home for themselves that they can also rent out. So whenever you're looking at, the actual mortgage plus the fee that you're going to charge for a short-term rental property management company, and then how much you're going to receive in rents, it's just not making sense right now. A lot of these properties just aren't getting the numbers that are going to make a purchase out here worth it. So what is the market like out here on 30A right now? It's not that great. And that sucks to say as a realtor that works on 30A. However, anytime there's kind of a negative anything going on in an area, typically means that there is room to invest. So there's a flip side to the coin. There's just a lot of potential for it to be a sort of waiting game. You might be able to get something now at a severely negotiated price that's going to have a huge value increase in the future. You just have to play the long game. I'm going to get into that a bit more as well. While we're talking about the future, I am going to say I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have, friends in high places that control things and they're feeding me information. So this is all based off of data and personal experiences that I'm having out here on 38. So take all of this with a grain of salt because everybody has an opinion and everybody's experience is different. Now, what do I think is going to happen with all of these rentals? I think we're going to see, a stark decline. And then I think the local populace that actually live here full time, the business owners, the folks in the hospitality industry, all of us are going to say, okay, what are we supposed to do here? Because now tourism is gone. None of us are making money. What's going to happen? Well, the county, they're going to have to say, hey, this is what caused this. So and by this, I'm talking about the beaches being taken by the beachfront property owners. So I'm thinking eminent domain is going to come in, and that's going to have to give the beaches back to the people. Now, when that happens, it's not going to be an immediate benefit to the rental market. I don't think. I think it'll probably still take a cycle or two, depending on how deep into this grave we dig ourselves. So keep that in mind. It's really difficult to time the market to say, okay, now's the time to buy, because this is when the prices are going to be at their lowest. But that is kind of what we're looking for if you're looking at 30A as an investment place. So kind of watch what's happening there and consider that, because I do believe that there's going to be a turn and then the income is going to be there. All right, so let's dig into the numbers just a little bit more when it comes to the overall market of real estate here on 30A. So just to kind of look at some numbers and see some trends, we're going to look over the past year all the way up until last month, which was June. I'm shooting this on July 6th of 2024, okay? So at any given time within the past year, on average, there were about 650 listings. So properties for sale, houses, townhomes, condos, whatever. About 650 on the market at all times. Each month, about an additional 200 were being added to those numbers. So every month, 200 more properties hitting the market, 200 more properties hitting the market, 200 more properties hitting the market on average. Last month, there was a total of 1,000 properties on the market, but on average for the past year, only 100 were selling per month. Now this is 30A and Santa Rosa Beach combined, because the database doesn't allow me to shrink it specifically to 30A, but that's going to be the majority of it anyways. So the numbers are still pretty good. So keep that in mind. A lot of people are wanting to sell the past year, not a lot of people wanting to buy. On average, these properties were listed for about $1.25 million, but what they were actually selling for was on average $900,000. Digging into these numbers a little bit deeper, if we look at the past year and the absorption rate, meaning if you looked at any month and the total listings, the total number of listings that were on the property during that month, how long would it take to sell every single one of those properties, given how long it's taking on average for properties to sell? If no other properties were added to the market, how long would it take to sell? On average, the absorption rate was about 7 months, but last month it jumped up to 11, and we're in June. This is supposed to be a super hot month, okay? So we're seeing the trend. We're seeing this decline. We're seeing this decline in buyers actually buying the properties, and we're also seeing a decline in what the buyers are actually willing to pay for these properties. Keep in mind, we are in an election year, so that's going to have an impact. So we're seeing that there's this disparity between what the properties are getting listed for and what the buyers are buying them for. So on average, if we look at the numbers for the past year, then last July, properties were selling at about 95% of what they were being listed at. Now in March, they dropped down to, in October, they dropped down to 91%. That's a pretty big difference. Now in March, they did jump back up to 94%, but as of June this year, they've dropped down to 92 again. So we're kind of all over the place, especially to go from July 95 and then to June being at 92. We're still seeing this steady decline of what the properties are actually selling for. For the past year, on average, properties were taking about 115 days on the market before they would sell. But in June of this year, they were taking 125 days to sell. So we are seeing a massive cooling off here on 30A. It's happening pretty quickly, and I am anticipating that it continues to do that up until after the election. So just keep that in mind if you're considering purchasing or selling. These are what the numbers are showing. We can see that there is a huge disparity between what sellers are wanting to get for their properties, what they think they're worth, and what the buyers are willing to actually pay for them. And some of the things that the buyers are looking at is those numbers. How much of a profit can they make off of the property if they use it as a short-term rental? So a lot of these properties just aren't making sense when you consider only putting down 20%. Obviously, if you pay cash for a property, then you're going to have a profit, right? But a lot of folks, they're wanting to just put down 20, 25%, even at 30%, given the interest rate, the HOA fees, which have gone up everywhere, the insurance and taxes. It's just very difficult to get a cash flow positive property out here on 30A. So what do you do, right? If you're a seller and you're like, I have to get out from under this property, for whatever reason, maybe you just don't want it anymore. Maybe short-term renting it out has just been super stressful. Maybe you had a bad experience with a tenant and they damaged some things and you're like, that's it. I got my feet wet and now I want them dry again, If you are considering selling a property right now here on 38 and it's an investment property, consider looking at what price you would need to sell that property at for it to be cash flow positive for someone else if they were only going to put down 20%. That's a great thing to look at. You're going to capture a whole lot more investors' eyes if you do it that way. And make sure whoever you're using as a realtor incorporates all those numbers, the cost to own, the projected rental income, historical numbers if you have them. They put all of that into the MLS so that agents like me looking for that information can get it very easily. It's very important that all of this is very easy to find. Even put it in the description. It just helps everybody the more information that is there, especially when you're sifting through, property after property after property, trying to find something that's cash flow positive. Now, on the flip side, if you're a buyer and you're considering purchasing, maybe you've got to get out of a 1031. You got to find something now. For one, obviously, talk to a realtor, make sure they're running the math for you, make sure they can find you something that's going to make sense, and understand that depending on how much you put down, you are potentially looking at a loss for a little while, because until after the election, things are probably going to continue to cool off. Now, after the election, regardless of whatever happens, I think things are going to warm up. It doesn't matter which way it goes. I think people just want to see what's going to happen so they know how to plan. Then they're going to put their plans in motion. It's just everything's kind of on freeze until after the election so everyone knows what's going to happen. So if you do need to get into something, one, make sure that you're comfortable with the payment, regardless if you are getting great rental income or not. Be sure that you can float it a little bit. And then also consider getting something that you yourself are going to enjoy, because you might end up using it yourself or for your family. And then also make sure that it's something that you can hold for the long game, because we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what's going to happen. So that property could get cold and then get hot again, or it could just get hot, right? So you need to be prepared for it to take a loss and then to revive. It's just like playing the stock market, okay? You can talk to as many professionals as you want. Everybody's going to analyze the numbers differently. Everybody's going to take the information from current events differently and put their spin on it. So ultimately, you have to feel comfortable with the decision that you're making. If you're the type to pray on it, sleep on it, meditate about it, whatever it is that you do to help you feel confident in a decision after seeing all the numbers. If you're a seller, but you're not really that motivated, you're like, let's just see if I can get something for the property. You're not going to get what you want. This is not the time. If you don't have to get rid of the property, or you're not willing to sell it for what a buyer would be willing to pay for it, just don't even put it on the market. Rent that thing out as much as you can. Maybe drop the rental rate so that it continues to stay booked up, but highly don't recommend putting it on the market, because it's going to sit there and you're going to get frustrated even if you're not motivated to sell it. Your agent's going to be working their butt off, hopefully, trying to get somebody to buy it. You're going to be trying to facilitate showings. You're going to be keeping it in, tip-top shape for people to be able to come see it. It's just an added headache. Just don't even put it on the market. If your agent tells you, hey, look, this is what it should go for, and you're like, well, I want to try and sell it for $500,000 more than that. Put it on for sale by owner then. Because it's not going anywhere. All right, let's move on to the third question that I get asked all the time, and that's going to be, what about taxes and insurance? So typically here on 30A, or really the majority of the Panhandle, if you estimate about 1% of the purchase price for taxes and 1% of the purchase price for insurance, you're going to be very close to what to expect to pay for your property for both taxes and insurance. So that's 1% each. So call it a total of 2%. And even if you pay cash for your property, I highly recommend that you get insurance. Do I think that it's kind of a racket? Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I have had to deal with insurance claims. I'm a Florida girl. I've been through so many hurricanes. They like rock me to sleep now, okay? So fully familiar, not afraid of a hurricane. But when they hit, do I expect the insurance that I've been paying thousands of dollars to kick in without any kind of headache and pay for all the damage? Absolutely. So is it worth it? Absolutely. Should it be the cost that it is? I'm not in insurance, and the things that they deem problematic, I don't necessarily agree with, but here we are. So just use those numbers. You'll be very safe within those parameters if you just estimate 1% of the purchase price for taxes and 1% of the purchase price for insurance. Now, all of that goes out the window, kind of, if you have to get flood insurance, which is the next question that I get is, us being so close to the coastline, how important is flood insurance and is it mandatory? If you are going to use financing for a property, they're going to look at the floodplain and let you know if it requires flood insurance or not. If it does, you can just about double your insurance plan. So you're going to have your regular insurance and then you're going to add a flood policy to it. Sometimes it's with an entirely different insurance company, but you're basically going to double your insurance. Not every area here on 30A is going to require flood insurance. A lot of them won't. Anywhere in Blue Mountain Beach, most of those properties, not going to require flood insurance. Blue Mountain Beach has the highest elevation along all of 30A. So if you're just super afraid of floods, maybe you dealt with a flood somewhere and you really want to steer clear of those, make sure you're checking out Blue Mountain Beach. You're going to feel very good there. Also keep in mind, if you're actually purchasing a property here on 30A as your primary residence, which a lot of folks do. We have tons of locals that live here. It's a fantastic area, truly. We have some dramas, but so does everywhere, right? So if you're looking at purchasing a primary residence here, then you absolutely can go and get your homestead exemption, which is going to help you with your taxes just a bit. Nothing crazy, but it's also going to protect you from your insurance or from your taxes going up more than 3% each year, which doesn't tend to happen, but it protects you against your taxes going up significantly each year. You don't have that benefit if you're purchasing it as an investment home, but if it's your primary residence that you do. And for any of my fellow veterans out there, thank you for your service. If you are 100% disabled permanently, then you don't pay any you don't pay any property taxes. You will have to show some documentation, and if you haven't already set it in place with another property here in Florida, the process takes a little bit. You do have to pay it up front, and then you get a refund for it, but still, not paying those taxes is a wonderful benefit, stark in comparison to the things that you go through to actually be awarded that benefit, but it's a small consolation. The fifth question that I get asked all the time about 30A and the properties here is about the HOAs. Is there this massive 30A HOA, or how common are they? And there are HOAs. There are a lot of them here on 30A. Some of them are super strict. Some of them are kind of laid back. And you can find them at all costs, from $0 to over $1,000 a month. So each one is going to be different. Now, if you're looking at a property that has a lot of amenities, then expect that it's going to have a higher HOA. If it's a condo, it's going to have a higher HOA, right? Because the HOA is going to handle a lot of the maintenance things, the actual structure of the building, and any amenities, pool, fitness center, anything else that it has. It's your contribution towards maintaining those items and you being able to continue. Sorry, just kick the table. And you being able to continue using those, and also for any insurance that those are required to have as well. Something that kind of sucks a bit about HOAs is not only are they going to provide you these amazing amenities at a cost, sometimes updates are needed, or, different amenities are brought in or desired, and so they need to be created, which costs money. So then we see these special assessments. Special assessments are going to, do things like build a dock. Okay, so we're going to build a dock and it's going to raise everybody's property value and their quality of life and ensure that the rents either stay where they're at or they're higher. It just, makes everything better. So we're going to do it, but we're going to charge all of the homeowners or, property owners within the subdivision so that everybody shares that burden equally or according to the square footage. If they, own a larger property, then they're going to have to pay a large percentage. However, they work it out. So those are a thing. And sometimes they can be a little bit scary because I've seen them straight up double HOA fees. So there's something to be said for them. Yes, we have them on 30A. Yes, they can be a pain in the butt, but sometimes they can also be a blessing, making sure that, your neighbor doesn't do something crazy with the property that's going to, make your property lose value. The sixth question that I get about 38 is, what is there to do over here? People just go to the beach and that's it. And that's not the case at all. People who live here, they go to work, they go to the beach, they go to the gym, they go to the grocery stores. There's all of the normal lifestyle stuff is right here, but our beaches just happen to be exceptional. We also have the Point Washington State Park, and we have Grayton Beach State Park. Both of these parks are fantastic. And you can go, off-roading right there in Point Washington, or you can go kayaking, paddleboarding, camping, whichever, right there at Grayton Beach, or you can go to Topsail. They've got some camping over there as well. And then just to the north, you have even more shopping and normal everyday stuff right there in Santa Rosa Beach, which is continuing to grow all the time. And then if you actually want to party and you're not really into kind of the quietness that you have on 30A after 9 p.m., if you head north onto 98, that's the main highway that goes east to west just above 38, you can head west over to Destin, or you can head east over to Panama City Beach. Depending on where on 30A you're staying, you'll probably decide based on whichever one's closer. And both of those have great nightlife that you can go, and then you can come back to 30A and resume the peacefulness that is living on the beach. The seventh question that I get about 30A is, what have prices done? What are we expecting? And I know I went over a lot of the patterns that we've seen just here in the recent history of the past year. But if we go back to, say, 2021 and work our way up year by year, it shows us a bit longer of a picture. So in 2021, if we look at the entire year, the median price was about $925,000. That was in 2021. Now in 2022, it rose to about $1.15 million. And then in 2023, it rose to $1.4 million. But now here in 2024, we're back down to 1.25. So we saw a pretty good increase for a minute there, but now we're kind of on the decrease and we don't know which way it's going to go next year. The eighth question that I seem to get about 30A is, what's going to happen in the future with it? Is there more stuff coming to the area? And the answer is 30A is super built out. We're still getting more, residential spaces being built here, but we're also starting to really expand into Santa Rosa Beach. We're seeing a whole lot more commercial activity right there on the north side of 98. We're getting drive-throughs and such. None of this was there before, even since I've lived here. A lot of this was just, it's just trees, forested area, but we've got all kinds of brand new subdivisions getting built out because 30A is running out of space, right? So everything's kind of having to push northward into Santa Rosa Beach. And even that is starting to get built out. So we're starting to see a lot more builds up in Freeport area. So keep watching that from 30A to Santa Rosa Beach to Freeport, okay? The Santa Rosa Beach area is probably going to explode. And then Freeport will. Freeport's still working on their infrastructure, but they're going to be the ones to catch everything that moves up from Santa Rosa Beach. So 30A, Santa Rosa Beach, Freeport. Keep an eye on it. If you're interested in investing and you're interested in hearing more about this information, all my contact information is on the screen. I'm absolutely happy to discuss it with you. The ninth question that I get on 30A is, what are the different communities like? Because we've got a bazillion, okay, maybe not a bazillion, maybe 16 different kind of neighborhoods along 30A. And someone was asking me the other day, they said, well, what is this area right here on the map? And I said, well, that's really just technically Santa Rosa Beach, which 30A is within Santa Rosa Beach. But usually when we say Santa Rosa Beach, we're talking about north of 98. But technically, 30A is still considered part of Santa Rosa Beach for the most part. Off to the east, then at some point it becomes Inlet Beach. But Along the south side of 30A and a little bit of the north, you're going to have Dune Allen and Gulf Place and Blue Mountain Beach, Seagrove, all the different little neighborhoods. And they have all kinds of different vibes. Dune Allen is going to be kind of quiet and just super relaxed. Like, yeah, we're part of 30A, but we're not snooty. Just kind of, I'm over here. And that's it. Blue Mountain Beach is kind of similar, but a little bit more like, yeah, we're 30A, And Seagrove Beach is kind of like, yeah, we're kind of doing our own thing over here. We got a lot of trees and we're still building up and we like to be a little bit isolated. And then you've got Alice Beach. It's like, yes, take pictures of me. Everything is perfect. Don't touch anything. And Seaside is super lively, lots of kids and families and super cute cottages. And then Rosemary Beach is like very sophisticated and intimate yet welcoming. You've got the farmers market, and then you've got Water Sound that's like, we only want to talk to you if you live in Water Sound. Just kidding. I love all my Water Sound folks, but kind of. So, and Watercolor that's like, yeah, we love everybody, but we've got some really expensive houses over here too. And check out all these amenities. We've got amenities and amenities and amenities, which Water Sound also has like a ton of amenities. They're like their own master plan development, just right there. You're like, how do you have so much space? And then Grayton Beach is like, yeah, welcome everybody, but it's a little tight over here, so don't bring your cars, park over here. We'll come and get you, and then enjoy our beach and our funky vibe, and just don't step on anyone's toes. We're happy to have you, but just keep calm, kind of thing. So you'll notice a lot of different personalities along the entire stretch of 30A. Each one's super unique and super fun. Definitely recommend that you experience them all, especially before purchasing something, if you're going to be spending any kind of time here. And the last question that I seem to get about 30A, well, not the last question, but I'm only doing 1 to 10. I get a lot of questions. We're just doing the top 10. The 10th question that I seem to get a lot here on 30A is, what are the restrictions as far as short-term rentals here on 30A? And 30A loves short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO, what have you. We love them. However, there are a couple subdivisions with HOAs, and they say, we're not having it here. We are catering to locals, homeowners that want to live in their properties, or long-term tenants. And you will know the HOA will put it in their rules and regulations that you cannot short-term rent out the property. Typically, short-term renting is considered anything under 6 months. But if you're considering purchasing and you want to use it as a short-term rental or Airbnb, make sure that your agent is checking the notes to make sure that you can actually use the property for that purpose. If you're not using me, which would be silly, but I will forgive you. I hope that you guys got so much information out of this video. If you did and you're still here with me, go ahead and comment down below with what was the most informative bit of information that you received from this video. Or you can comment with what was lacking and that you would like to see me answer later on, or even just in a direct comment. I love when you guys put comments or when you reach out to me. I am a real human and I really enjoy speaking with y'all. So again, if you haven't done so already, please click on that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you get notified every time I do another video. And also, if you're like, is AJ actually a decent agent? You can come up over here and click on all of our Google reviews. And if you're thinking, well, maybe 30A isn't the place for me to purchase right now, you can click on this video link over here and it'll take you to our sister channel, Life on the Emerald Coast, where we cover everywhere from Pensacola to Panama City Beach, and I'm sure we can find you something over there if 30A isn't what you're looking for. I'll see y'all at the next one. Bye.